Welcome to the Market Mindset. We are the hub for news, results, and CEO interviews focusing the junior commodities sector. We provide market analysis and perspective that will help position you for solid returns. If that sounds like something you're interested in, you can help support us by liking this video, subscribing to our channel, and clicking the notification bell. For more info, you can visit our website. All links are in the description below. Now let's get into today's video.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Digging Deeper. Thank you to Red Cloud again for providing two excellent guests. Really looking forward to getting into this. And we haven't talked about zinc on here for a long time, and so we're going to get right into zinc. And we've got Rohan Hazelton, who's the president, CEO, and chairman over at NorZinc. How are you doing this morning? Let us know a little bit about zinc. Why zinc? Why now? What's going on? And we're looking forward to finding out about your.
Great. Thanks a lot, Andrew. Really appreciate the invite and being on here and appreciate everyone joining in. Again, my name is Rohan Hazelton. I joined the company NorZinc just within the last year, and I'm extremely excited about our flagship project, Prairie Creek, a very high-grade zinc-lead silver deposit in the Northwest Territories, and also about this is essentially a really world-class asset that I joined with the idea of not only being able to build and develop this project, but really build a company around it and being a company maker. As far as zinc, which is our primary product, and at these metal prices is about 50% or more of total revenue. Zinc is obviously doing fantastic in the market right now at almost getting close to 14-year highs at just over $1.80 a pound, reflective of shortages and supply issues in the market. But I think also, reflective of some longer term, issues that we'll see that strength for a while. As far as, why zinc, zinc is primarily, used, over the majority used in galvanizing steel, an important element, not just in construction, but other elements that really do form part of, sort of the new, battery and decarbonizing world in terms of, going into wind turbines, lighter cars, these sorts of things. But there's a lot of other uses that are important in terms of some very high technology on industrial scale batteries, even zinc carbon batteries for lighter, as well as medical. Zinc is an important essential nutrient used both in health and human health and even in fertilizer. So there's many uses, and I think we're going to continue to see that demand grow.
Well, thanks. I love when people kind of put it into context of, well, where do I use this? And they are starting to put it together, all these critical elements and metals that we need for this entire kind of electric future. And I'm glad you touched on that, like the why, because I always ask people why, like what attracted you to the project. And just not to toot your own horn, but I mean, you were the co-founder and CEO of Corp Mining. You were one of the earliest employees, or an early employee over at Wheaton River, which is now everyone knows it's Gold Corp. So when people have worked for big companies like that, big operations, had a lot of success, and also you graduated from Harvard with applied math and economics. I always say, okay, like it's mining's tough. What attracted you to this? Why zinc? And I think you nailed it, but maybe kind of reiterate what it was that really drew you to this.
Yeah, no, thanks, Andrew. Appreciate that. So I've been lucky to have a very interesting career so far in mining. 20 years, as you mentioned, starting off as one of the earliest employees of Wheaton River, becoming Gold Corp, spinning out Silver Wheaton and a number of other transactions. A lot of growth and M&A activity, and then also with a lot of entrepreneurial activity with some startups here in Toronto in the similar metal space, Ascendant Resources, as well as Cerrado Gold, which is now public, and as you mentioned, Corp Mining. So I think if I look back, what interests me is definitely building companies and small, but small going to big, and that's I think that's the exciting part, and I think that's exactly what we have here in terms of NorZinc and Prairie Creek. We're still a small a very small company, still in market cap, with significant room to grow. Just looking at the value of of our project and some of the strengths that we'll discuss. And you did point out, I should have mentioned on zinc, it is actually defined as a critical mineral both on the Canadian and the U.S. Critical minerals list, and for the reasons we just discussed.
And this is an interesting story because it's not quite like a refurbishment story, but it's an interesting history to it as well. And it's that, I mean, you've got a project that is of the Northwest Territories, but it was like basically completed. And I won't steal all your thunder, but it's basically completed, but it didn't really need a lot of refurbishment. But tell us a little bit about get into the project now a bit.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Andrew. And if you, when one looks at our website, you can see photos of, of our property with existing surface infrastructure and importantly, significant underground infrastructure, 5 kilometers of underground workings and development. And the original history, this mine was 90% completed under former owners of Cadillac Silver Mine in the early 1980s, being financed by the Hunt brothers, and then just before completion, encountered financial difficulties and went into bankruptcy. So we've been advancing the project, and you can see that there in the slide in terms of in our footprint and surface infrastructure, 1,000 ton per day mill that was installed but never turned on. The stopes and were opened up to that original mining rate, and really only a small, essentially bulk sample was taken out of less than 50,000 tons. So we're looking to certainly leverage on that infrastructure that we already have, but we are looking to expand that. We had an original feasibility study of 1,600 tons per day, published in 2017, but we've enhanced that with at the end of last year with a PEA at 2,400 tons per day. And an expanded mine plan. But the key attributes of this project are really very high grade zinc, and on a zinc equivalent basis in the 23-24% zinc equivalent, and a long life, which in the PA we showed at 20 years mine life with significant exploration potential.
And this is, I mean, I always hesitate when I say short time span, but this is a short play to get up to mining. And I always want to point that out because, there's lots of different types of companies. There's exploration, there's this, that. This is up and running. You've got, you raised some money to get a winter road in, for, kind of to help out with the infrastructure. There's an airstrip on the site as well. So there we have a sludge of kind of milestones that you're looking to hit. Maybe you can walk us through, if someone's looking at this now, what are they looking at, as far as you guys?
Yeah. No. Thanks, Andrew. I mean, as you know, timeframes in mining. I mean, this is really a near term, quote unquote shovel ready project. Of course, with the construction timelines, that still we're expecting, still means that we're expecting to be in production towards the end of 2025. But again, in terms of mines in general, and certainly zinc mines and zinc projects that are out there today, that's very near term. Yeah. So our timeline for this year is key catalysts. So we'll expect by mid-year, we're well advanced in having the full and final updated permit for the 2,400 ton per day case, and that covers the mine. We have our road permits, and we've been working on some conditions of those sort of subcomponents of those permits. We also expect those over the next quarter to be fully ready to start the full construction of that first winter road, winter trail, late this year and into early next year. This summer, we do intend to do a drill program aimed at some exploration, but also additional studies that'll go into the updated feasibility study that we have begun, but we want to include those new studies later this year and finalize that updated fees into next year. But yeah, you're looking at the overall schedule of construction. It would really actually be, and again, partly leveraging the existing infrastructure, more of an 18-month restart, if you want to call it that, although it was never mined, if it wasn't for the how remote it is and the putting in an all-season, a new road, because the original road has grown over. A all-season road is a 3 winter, 2 summer campaign, and that's what brings this project to more of a 3-year timeline. But otherwise, you can see from some of the time frames there for the surface construction and the mine restart. It's actually a very short time frame, closer to 12 to 18 months. Once we can get in that the new equipment and new infrastructure, which is why we need to build the first initial winter roads.
And there's a lot of project management, permitting that's required. That'll be kind of news catalyst driving things forward. But also, you kind of hinted a little bit. You're kind of doing some looking to see, like, expanding the resource. Is there an upside here as well as to further expansion at depth? Is there anything else that you're kind of saying, listen, there could be more to the story?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, there's we've have enough, of resource, proven out to know that we have a mine and an economic mine. So it really still is, the focus is still on the, the development side of the story, but the exploration side, is still significant. If you, there is one slide that I think shows it well, if you are able to pull up, but just showing the strike length. But really, what we see today, at about 2.3 kilometer strike length, including all resources and, in measured, indicated, and inferred, it starts to dip, or it dips, fairly steeply. And also as the topography goes up, so it gets expensive, obviously, to drill too far out in the future. But there was, one drill hole that the company put in a number of years ago. That's 2 kilometers beyond, the edge of our existing inferred resources. Yeah, exactly. That line right in the middle of the page is 2 kilometers out and almost 2 kilometers deep, showing a lot of the similar grades and results, and importantly, the same mineralogy. So, again, we really expect what looks like a 20-year mine life today. That's almost a doubling of the same strike length. Again, assuming that it's consistent, which it is a very consistent ore body. Through the majority of it is a main quartz vein, and so we would expect to see not only significant mine life extension there, to the north. That's actually to the north, the way that looks, but also on the south side of Prairie Creek, there'd been a fair bit of drilling in the past. It's a little shallower and not as significant bulk, but that would. So we, I mean, if I wave some arms and you say it's a 20, what is today a 20-year mine life, likely, will be in, 40+ year mine life at the end of the day.
Yes. And I see I love these types of stories too, because it's a different perspective than people are saying, hey, we're off XYZ looking and, blue sky hunting for this and that. This is more of an analyst exciting type of project because, hey, we've got some numbers we're working on. We'll have an updated PA, so we'll know what we've updated. That gives it may not have all the smoke and like, hey, we're looking for this, we're treasure hunting. It's like, well, no, we've got the numbers. It's economic. What we're really going to be moving the catalyst are a lot of permitting questions of do you see that like running smoothly? Have you run into any issues? How's that all going?
Yeah, no, for sure. The and just one point on your, sort of talking about being a concrete project today. I think another thing to add is, given with the 5 kilometers of underground workings, unusual for a project that's not developed, that's not in production. You can go and you can touch the ore body and touch the stopes, and that that's great for analysts that come in and can see it. But yeah, to answer your question on permitting, I mean, we on the major permits for the mine and the mine expansion, it's been going extremely well. Last year we, in the fall, we announced a major milestone, which was we didn't need to, refresh or do a new environmental assessment. So we see that as being, very much, I don't want to say fully procedural, but, more or less in nature and low risk to get to our expanded mine permit. Again, our existing mine permit at the lower rate, we could use that today. To start production, at a lower rate. Right now, the plan is to, is to build to expand the mill and, and build the capacity right from the beginning. But that, that is an option, and we're permitted for that. And then on the road side, some of, I guess, delays we had initially on just some of the final winter road permitting side with regulatory bodies that are we've been we've engaged with them at a much higher level since the beginning of this year, and have very strong relationships with the basically the NWT regulators, as well as part of the road goes through Parks Canada land, and we've now engaged with them very well and on a very strong working relationship. So I don't see future issues to our permitting.
Now, this is a bit of a macro question, but do you know where most of the zinc comes from? Like, where do we import a lot of zinc for? Because I'm just trying to think, like, for us in Canada to have a zinc mine up and running, this is, I always come back to, so critical that we take control and harness some of this supply of metals that we've kind of let go of over the last little while.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I mean, I think if you're asking for, where does it come for the end use being, steel, and we have a number of steel mills, including very close to where I live right now, near Toronto. But I think the interim step about smelters, we have a few in Canada. We've got the Trail smelter and the CEZ smelter, but the big global capacity of smelters is primarily Europe and China. And so I think your question is a good one that I think, over time, I think all countries are rethinking the whole supply chain and how to make it more strategic and where should, even the interim steps happen. But, we do have a, supply chain, with production in Canada, but I would say that most of the zinc, just, in terms of numbers, is being smelted in Europe or Asia.
Well, I thank you so much, Rohan, for coming on. I really appreciate it. Now, if anybody wants to get the report from Red Cloud as well as to where they see the stock, how they look at it, it's a lot of numbers, which analysts love, because it's down there. They're kind of their forte of being able to say, listen, here's what we know the mine life is for these numbers. This is the net present value, all that wonderful stuff. If you want that, reach out to me, reach out to us. We'll get you that report. And once again, thanks so much for coming on and letting us know about it. I love seeing zinc, which we don't hear a lot of, and two, like, shovel ready. We're very close, and without even getting to the context of that whole 5 kilometers, they spent a lot of money getting this thing to just about ready, and then poof. So amazing. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much, Rohan, and enjoy the rest of the day.
Great. Thanks for your time. Thanks all.
Today's company presentations are brought to you by Red Cloud Financial Services and the team at Red Cloud Vancouver. Red Cloud Financial Services is your preeminent source for mining industry opportunities. The team provides a unique tailored marketing program dedicated to reaching the right people from its mining-focused global network, giving clients access to industry-leading events and conferences, retail and institutional marketing, plus an in-house growth-driven digital agency. Red Cloud Financial Services has access to some of the mining industry's most notable companies and CEOs. Tune in every Thursday at 4:15 p.m. Eastern, 1:15 p.m. Pacific for weekly corporate presentations. For more information, visit redcloudfs.com.
Welcome back. This is a real treat. We've got Jim Patterson, who's the chairman and CEO of ValOre Metals. This is very exciting because Jim is a principal of Discovery Group, and he's been there since like 2002. And I'm sure some of you will recognize some of the names between K2 Gold, Fireweed Zinc, Great Bear, of course, Kodiak, a number of companies. This is a real pleasure to talk to you and you're the chairman. This is your kind of flagship property here. How are you doing today? And let's just get at it.
Hey, Andrew, how you doing? Great to be here. Real pleasure.
Good stuff. So tell us about ValOre. Very interesting proposition, a good profile of properties as well as metals and minerals. Where do you want to start with this?
Well, I guess I'd like to start with the group, Discovery Group, which you mentioned. So you're right. It's been I was a young man when I first started working with John Robbins back in 2001, 2002. And the group has certainly evolved over those decades. And companies come and go in the group. If we're unsuccessful, we'll roll it back and change the name. But if we're successful, which has happened quite a few times, bigger companies will come in and take the companies over. And so that's happened with companies like Kaminak, recently with Great Bear within the last month, which was really the quintessential reason why people invest in gold stocks. To take it from $1 million market cap to $1.8 billion takeout in 5 years is just phenomenal. So these are some great experiences that we've had within our group. And really what we're focused on is as a group is incredibly high quality technical people that know what they're doing in specific regions or specific stages of project in the world. So they're purpose fit. And with that reputation comes access to capital and actually access to really good deal flow. So if we're out looking for deals, vendors want to talk to us because they know that we don't always pay the highest price. But once we get a project in our fold, we can really put our shoulder behind it and try to advance it for a successful outcome.
Yeah, having a group like yourselves is, I mean, there's so many positives to it because you can bring fresh eyes to a project as well. And I'm sure there's lots of collaboration between each company and group to say, hey, what's your thought on this and what's your thought on that? It's that synergy is unique. There's other companies that do kind of these group type things, but obviously there's a lot of success there. So whatever is happening with the Discovery Group, you're making it work, and it's pretty exciting what's been happening in just the last few years.
That's that point you made, the fresh eyes thing, but also we have a very strong belief in funding exploration and innovation. And one of the opportunities that we took advantage of over the last, let's say, 5 years collectively with 3 different companies was looking at projects that had been unloved by the mothership head office, and they were not allocating dollars to the team on the ground to advance it through exploration. And with that apathy, basically, they kind of ran out of money and they needed to sell the asset. They wanted to jettison the asset. So we really took advantage of that, looking about what we thought we could make the project if we invested in exploration, and it's worked out pretty well.
I love these types of stories because people often think, well, this project's been around for X number of years. They've drilled tons of holes, not you, but other companies have drilled holes in it. There's nothing there. And then you have someone come along and go, wait a second, no, we've got a different thesis. We've got a different way of looking at this. And it lets people know, someone who's reasonably new to the space and a generalist go, you could be walking on a property and there could still be value there. It's just, did you hit the right source? Did you find the right feeder? And you guys have shown that in a couple of projects of, if you have that fresh look and a new way of conceiving of how this may have mapped out and planned out, you could be right.
Yeah, well, I can take no credit for the success of Great Bear. That company was in our group. I will say that a lot of it rests on, of course, John Robbins was very involved as one of the rainmakers of our group, but Bob Singh and Chris Taylor were the ones who really were pitching this concept that they were looking at the data very differently than the previous operators of the Dixie project. And so they were positioning it as, you know, those before us didn't look at it through the right lens. And so it was like a CSI Red Lake type pitch that they were giving. But in the end, it was really tough to raise money for Great Bear at 15 cents and 20 cents. And it went out the door at $29 a share 5 years later, because evidently they were right. And then the deposit was obviously much bigger than they even imagined with their wildest dreams. And they managed to grow a very successful growth-oriented company very rapidly and deliver something to Kinross.
It truly is the poster child for how even a stock chart should look. I mean, it's the branching up, funding at the right level, goes up, maybe a little pullback, and then back up again. Yeah. I mean, you just look and go, that's all you have to do. That's how easy it is.
Yeah.
But it just did that thing where you're like, holy smokes. It doesn't happen every day, but it was very clean, very great. So what's your attraction here with ValOre? So you've got the group, you've got tons of technical expertise, you've got a whole team of people to rely on. Where do you see this going? I mean, you've got a portfolio of interesting assets as well, between uranium, as well as you've got one gold property as well, I believe.
There's a slide. I know we sent the deck to you, but the specific slide that really shows it is slide 4.
Yep.
Can you see that? Let me pop back here, and it's sort of the map of the world. Yeah, there we go. So that gives you a really good idea of the projects that we have. So back in 2008, there was a company that was in our group. It was a prospect generator, and it had 3 uranium projects in northern Canada. And we spun those out into a brand new vehicle called Kivalliq Energy. And that flagship of that project was called Angelac. And in its own vehicle, we were able to raise almost $60 million for that company, for that project. And we had some big exploration years. Like, for example, in 2012, we had a $20 million, we raised 22 million bucks, and we had a $20 million exploration program on that project alone that year. 3 rigs rocking, 60 people in camp. And it was just awesome. And we were very well respected globally as an exploration play in the uranium space. But in 2011, the Fukushima incident, which was basically a tsunami that created a lot of destruction on the west coast of Japan. And one of the things that fell victim to that big tidal wave was a reactor called Fukushima. And that in itself caused the Japanese government to turn off all of their reactors. And they were pretty much 10% of global demand for uranium, for nuclear reactors. So it really knocked the industry down. And we went through a very dark period. And finally, with all the things that I've been learning with the other companies in our group, we just stopped wanting to bang our head against the wall for uranium. And we were waiting until better days came for uranium. So we actually rolled the company back, renamed it, did a rights offering. And then we acquired this project over here, which is called Pedra Branca. It's in northeastern Brazil, and it's a palladium platinum project. And we recognize real value creation potential, because the company that owned it had really done a great job in kind of conveying to the market that this was a development and production story. And we looked at it and said, no, this is still an exploration story. And so it fits with what we do, which is adding value through exploration and moving the project along and de-risking it until perhaps there's someone who comes along and wants to buy it from us and put it into production. So we had this uranium asset. We kept it all maintained, all the claims maintained through all the dark winter in uranium space. And then we picked this project up called Pedra Branca in 2019. And over the last couple of years, we've been really aggressively moving that forward, as aggressively as we can on a very low budget. But we ended up announcing last week that we doubled the inferred resource. So we have a little over 2 million ounces now of palladium platinum in the project. And then up in Canada, we have one of the highest grade uranium deposits on the globe outside of the Athabasca Basin in Saskatchewan. It's the highest grade uranium deposit globally. Huge exploration upside in that project. We've done metallurgy in the project, and we have a resource. So we actually have 2 great assets in this company. And one might say that perhaps those assets should be split into 2 separate entities. And if that person were to say that, I'd say, stay tuned. So we'll work on that. But effectively, we got these great assets. And your previous speaker Rohan was talking about timing, and you were bringing up supply squeezes and so forth. So what's super exciting right now is that we have chunky assets in commodity classes where a big part of the supply for those commodities is from risky jurisdictions, specifically areas around Russia. Yes. And so this is my own belief after being beaten up by the uranium space for the last 13 years. Now is the time, because we're going to get a big squeeze. 30 to 40% of all of the uranium production, if not more, comes from Kazakhstan or neighboring countries. And there's saber rattling going on and squeezes happening. And you got to understand what that really means is that wherever there's a reactor, there's a purchasing agent that needs to buy fuel. And he or she is looking and saying, I can't turn this thing off. I have to buy fuel. And if there's no fuel, I'm going to get fired. That's how myopic they are. But they're going to start to look around and say, I've got to secure a contract. And where am I going to get that? And what that causes is sort of this blind stampede into overpaying. And that will drive prices. And we've seen it before. This thing is uranium is a very tight market. Yep. And I believe we're just beginning to tickle the beginning innings here of real squeeze. And generally the space in uranium is so small that when the price moves, all the uranium issuers rock.
It goes. And when it goes. We're lucky we had Managing Director David Talbot from Red Cloud and talk about uranium last week. And so it was a great show. He knows the stuff. And it was just a reminder of when it goes, it goes. And I'll say I can't imagine it not going. I hate trying to be prognosticating the future, but we need green, clean energy. And there's no debate. As much as people would like to have one, it's nuclear. That's the cleanest, greenest way we're going to get, and as fast as we can go. And that's being recognized. Like the Biden administration is much more open. In the past, Democrats weren't. They're very open to the idea. So it ties in that question as well as I asked about zinc, was that supply chain is critical. Is where are we getting our stuff from, and can we get it quicker, faster, better? If it's sitting in Canada and it's going to the States, that's a lot easier than, okay, we're shipping it from XYZ over from Kazakhstan and trying to work a deal. I think those days are going to be, they've been marred to say the least.
Yeah. One of the things that you'll see about, if you really get into it, what you will learn, the nuclear business, and it sounds like I'm BSing here, but it's actually the safest business in the world in my mind, because it has to be, because when there are mistakes, people can die, large populations can be affected, and the reputation really is, the industry-wide is hurt if something goes wrong. So in the case of Fukushima, it almost decimated the industry forever, and it was literally a very contained type of incident in one country, and that country was really affected outside of the reactor, but all people remember is the reactor. So they have to be super careful, and they're quite apolitical. So what they, the professionals that work in that business aren't running around like the government minions are yelling about Russia. No, they want to keep everything safe and apolitical, because they need access to supply. They want safety. They don't want political fights happening. So they're not the reason for anything going on. But what's going to happen is the actual purchasing agents, I think, the fuel buyers, are going to start to panic. And unfortunately for them, over the last 10 years, when the prices have been low, they haven't been supportive of the producers. So now the producers are not going to be friendly back, and it's going to be a perfect storm, which is quite exciting to see.
And so this is a perfect segue to, you've got this incredible project that's, in all likelihood, someone bigger is going to look and go, oh, okay, this is interesting. And, that's what your business model is. You're open to talking with people that are looking, as you advance the projects further, and either team up, joint venture, whatnot, or whatever the situation may be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, one of the things, again, Dave and particularly, or in particular, Red Cloud covers the entire space super well. And they've done a couple charts for us where they actually kind of list all the Canadian exploration companies in uranium, and then those that are developers. And the list is super small for those companies that have actually defined and inferred or even any kind of resource.
Yeah.
So the rest are just explore codes that haven't gone through the tens or 20s of millions of dollars drilling things off and having a resource. So we're ahead of the curve there. And then also metallurgy, super important. And we've done metallurgy going back almost 9 years now. The results are very positive. So in addition to all that, though, why we like it is because we believe we have a district in northern Canada. We have a big land package, over 50,000 hectares, surrounding these basins that are very similar to the world's prime mineralization area for uranium, which is called the Athabasca Basin. And these things are sub-basins to that. They probably were part of it many years back, part of the same basin system. And we've got high-grade uranium for 10s, 20s of kilometers in showing. So we know we can really add value, the type of value most retail investors like, which is exploration, upside, and growth, as you're moving kind of steadily forward to advance the project with that resource as an asset base. So we're literally ready to rock and roll here in the next couple of weeks. We'll be announcing the start of the program, which is hopefully the commencement of drilling. And we haven't been up there since 2016 because of the dark times in the space. But now we're ready to get back after it. The timing is exceptional.
This is one of the great things, too, of being part of a big group and having the ability to some companies have to panic whenever things go badly for 5, 6, 7, 8 years. You can hold on to projects that you really love. And once again, generalists often say, well, why did someone let go of that project? Oh, well, they couldn't hold on to it. Whereas if you're in a big group, you can hold on to it. And, it's cyclical. And we're back now in a time when all eyes are on energy, and, there's a big shift happening and everything needs to be green. And at the end of the day, we have to be talking about nuclear. And that's that one project. And then maybe to wrap it up, this PG&E, that's, is it 140,000 acres that you have down in Brazil?
No, it's 50, 60,000.
50, 60,000. Okay. So hectares, yes.
So
and you've got that project as well.
Over 30 kilometers from one end to the other, 35 kilometers. It's a large land package. It's in a big system, palladium platinum, like a volcanic system that has this palladium platinum and a little gold sweetener in this system. And so that companies before us spent about $30 million US on it, doing a lot of drilling. Yeah, there's a good thing. On the right, you can see in the black, those are the outlines of our claims. And then those red dots or red stars that you see on the right are the zones that form the deposits that are in our resource. And then we picked up that big arm at the bottom you see that's kind of sticking up like this, up to the right. That we just staked that recently, and that's completely unexplored, but we've gone through there and there's showings, it's juiced. So we're very excited to follow that. The green areas on that map, they're the systems that on the west side of them, they seem to be quite productive and fertile. So we're exploring those. What's super exciting about this is that we have a methodology that works, which is using the highest resolution commercially available spectral or satellite data. We're actually able to identify rock types, something called worldview. And then we've got cool. And then we've got two crews on the ground that have these augers that you see on the left-hand side, right below that tree. And so they can move. It's all truck supported. They can rock up to a zone and have a 10 or 15 meter hole plunked into the ground in a couple of hours. And that allows us to get right down to bedrock. So we can rapidly move across this whole property, which is quite large, and test those targets that we think are prospective. And then if we get the assays back from the lab and they're juiced, then we can go in with either an RC rig or a core rig to try to add value. And we did that with two zones that were not known before, and we added them to our resource that came out last week, which we doubled the resource because of the inclusion of some of those zones.
Yes. And I mean, and once again, you haven't, how would I put this? There's a lot of area to cover still.
We're just starting. Well, a lot of good work was done by previous operators for sure, but a lot of the really good work was done by a big company out of South Africa, and they had different thresholds, and we're kind of these scrappy trench fighters from Vancouver, and we like exploration, and that's what we're aiming for, adding value that way. And so this is just a perfect project for that.
Excellent. Well, listen, we're going to be watching the news to see what's happening, the developments happening, because it's two exciting projects. Looking forward to catching up with you again. I really appreciate you taking the time. Have a wonderful day. And thanks again, everyone. Check out the stock ValOre metals. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Andrew. Great talking to you. Thank you.